So my name's Thierry Nicolet. I've got 25 years of PR experience, and thanks for KAKTUS for inviting me. The presentation I'm going to go giving to you today is about a case study. Actually, it's the way we do PR measurement at Schneider Electric. And before we start, I'd like just to have a quick understanding of the audience type. With a raise of hand, who's from an agency side? Okay, and who's from the client side? Oh, perfect, so we have a mixed crowd. So the client side, listen to me. This is how you need to speak to your agencies. Agencies, listen to me. This is how you need to speak to your customers, okay? So, excuse me. For the protocol, Schneider Electric at a glance. I'm going to give you an insight of what we do. Schneider Electric is a power management company. We started in the 19th century, so it's pretty old, 175 years old, to quickly then move into power and control after the steel industry, power and control. And more recently, you can see in 2007, there's the acquisition of a company called APC. This is the company I come from. I joined Schneider Electric through an acquisition, okay? And APC does UPSs, little boxes with a battery inside that gives you power when there's a power failure. Nothing too sexy, but still energy management. So this evolution from steel to energy management led to some complexity, okay? Today, we're a 26 billion company with roughly 160,000 employees worldwide. We are working with like 4 different businesses: buildings, industry, infrastructure, power distribution, IT. So pretty complex business units I need to deal with within my organization. You can also see a very diverse footprint of the company in the geographies, and pretty much nicely spread out, right? So that complexity makes that today I'm in charge of managing 47 different PR agencies worldwide in 52 different countries, and we actually measure in 43 of these countries, okay? What's interesting is I do not recommend to go with a network of agency. I mean, to select, Fleischmann Hillard worldwide or any other company worldwide. What I want is to make sure that the countries are allowed to select the agencies they want to work with, because I will be challenging them as the global PR person on their results. And I can't ask you to win a race if I give you my horse and you can't pick your horse, right? That's not really fair. So I do not recommend. I mean, large agencies are very welcome. Small agencies are also very welcome. It is the responsibility of the country. And in some organizations, and you have to really bear in mind that it's much better to be a large account in a small PR agency than to be a small account in a big-ass agency. Because eventually what's going to happen is you're going to be priority Z, okay? So don't be afraid to go with small agencies. In Serbia, I'm blessed to have our agency here. We've been working with them for over 4 years, and they're doing a great job. So enterprise, you can talk to these ladies. Excuse me. I think I had a bottle of water. Yvan, do you mind? It's not even there. Thanks. So again, no global network. It's not forbidden, but again, it's much better to make sure that the people are responsible of their choices. These are the names of the companies that we use globally. So you see very, very diverse number of names. So what's the complexity when you have that? Is how do you manage so many diverse universe of agencies, and how do you make sure that they all report in a way that you can compare their results, right? So, well, anyways, at first I thought, okay, great. I come from APC. I'm meeting this enormous company. The Schneider Electric is going to be structured, is going to be organized. How I thought the work was going to be is really teamwork between the businesses. We saw the 5 different businesses. The countries, who were like really executing at country level, and the global function, PR, me. By the way, that's before I turned the white beard. It was a couple of years ago. And the reality was more like this, unfortunately. So as you can see, the countries are actually driving the show. The businesses try to tag along. And I don't know if you can see, but there's a little girl in the middle, squished between the two. And that's me. Global PR, trying to do something with this situation, right? Anyways, the presentation today is a case study, as I said. The purpose of this presentation is to allow you to explain to your colleagues, to your families, to your peers, that PR is not just a cost, it's an investment, so that we're here to generate business. And I'll prove it with numbers. The importance of tracking, and obviously the share of voice, which is one of the measures that we go with, and I'll explain what that is. And I'm going to be sharing with you the 4 tools that we use to track, measure, and share. Okay, pretty straightforward. So first of all, contribution to business. Again, I said PR is not a cost, it's an investment. So you want to do an analysis, and Bruno earlier in the presentation was, all the case studies he was showing were amazing because not only did it work on the emotional piece, but in the report there was how many hits, how many increases in business, etc. And that's very important. You need to be looking at sales numbers. So if I ask my organization what drives sales at Schneider Electric, the first thing they would say is just like salespeople. Salespeople, they go and see customers, they get the contract signed. And I said, yep, but I would argue that marketing communication is also a contributor there, right? Through PR, through advertising, events, direct marketing, our website even, okay? Obviously, salespeople, I have to give it to them. Yes, they do generate sales, absolutely. But also our channel and third-party people, electrical distributors. They actually recommend our products, so there's sales contributors there. And never forget also our installed base, because our installed base are the people that will recommend to peers and repurchase our products. It is important, if you want to be on the business side, to try to understand how each of these things contribute at any point of time in the sales process. So you can see this is way different from the creative agency presentation. I'm really talking business here. And if you want to sit at the CEO table and explain why they should invest more or do this and that, you need to look at sales figures as well, okay? So why does PR generate sales? First of all, it shows to our channel that we're actively promoting our solutions to the public. So for them, it's easier to go and sell it, right? Because they know that we have been putting the idea and the need for our products at the customer level. Also, on the contrary of an ad, it's a third-party endorsement of our claims. Okay? It's not just me putting an ad in the paper saying my product does this, is blue, and it's really great. Here is a professional person that analyzes my product, my solution, my market, and says this is what we think about it. Okay? And what is important, it also positions ourselves within competition. It's important to see that you can't just sell your product and say nobody else exists. But to position yourself, you have to be sure that in an article, if they say who are the 3 companies that really do good in this environment, if you're not cited there, you don't exist. Okay, so you need to be there. And articles will allow you to provide exactly that because they're third-party independent endorsement. So what we do at Schneider Electric, and I'm going to be showing you real numbers from way back when, 2008. What we do is we do what drives demand studies. And what they're actually called why buy purchase. You know your customer bought one of your product, you survey your customer and you say, Mr. Customer, thank you very much, but why did you buy my product? Okay? And before that we also have, how did you hear about my product? But here the why buy is where I'm concentrating. So don't get dazzled by the graphs, we're going to zoom on what's important here, okay? Reviews is what we want to focus on. Okay, so here, roughly the bar that you can see on this side, this point here, you see there's a 3 times increase. 3 times more people told us in Q2 2008, and I'll be coming to your side in a second to show you, that they actually were purchasing our product because they read a review. Okay, so something happened that my job made 3 times more people go and buy the product in Q2 2008. See, it's the blue bar here, 3 times more increase, review. So I said, something happened in Q2 2008, let's figure out what it is. That I am generating 3 times more sales than normally, okay? So I looked at one of my dashboards, and what we're looking at here, really what's interesting is, in Q2, the real visibility increase was in May. Okay, that's what this is showing. So I said, okay, let's take a look at my clipping booklets. You know that you all know what clipping booklets are, is when you have the press cuttings and you take a look. So I retroactively went to my clipping booklets in May and checked out what happened. It was, I didn't precise it, but it was a German study. And so I'm taking a look at my German clipping booklets, and here's an article in Computer Bild, which is like, I think it's a bi-weekly, with over 1 million impressions. This Computer Bild did a comparative review of one of my products, which means they were looking at not only my product, but all the other competitive products as well. And they were making a statement that they thought that mine was the best. Editor's choice. So this is really to prove to you that if proof needed to be, that PR actually really focuses on generating more attraction for your product, willingness to buy. So we saw an increase of 3 times more people that purchased. But we're in business, right? How does that translate into sales? That's the important question. So I went to the sales team and I said, please, can you give me your sales numbers for that specific product that won, okay? And show me how much we've been selling during the entire year. And this is what the graph came out with. As you can see, January, February, March, April, May, 30,000 euros roughly per month of sales, right? Starting May, exactly when the publication hit the streets, what happened? A high increase in the sales progression, which actually added up to over 140,000 euros of sales for that only product. It was a backup 700, anyways, regardless of the name. So that is really impressive. You know, that very positive review generated that much more sales. We did not have to hire any new salesperson. We did not need to go and do any incentives with the channel and give promotions or anything. By the way, talking of promotions, the 2 lines that you see, there's sales numbers and unit sales. They're together, so it's not like buy 5, get 1 free, okay? So it's really directly linked to this event. I also took a look at the sales of the entire product range, okay? Imagine you want to buy a car, you say, I really like the Mercedes SLK 2-liter. You go to the dealership and you say, oh, 2 liters is really expensive. Ooh, I'm going to take the 1.8. Or you say 2 liters is nice, but I don't have more money. I'll take the 2.2 liter. So you really have an impact on the entire product range. And the impact on that entire product range is like an extra 100,000 euros, okay? So when you can do studies like this, and this is why I'm talking to you in the customer and client side, but also you agencies, if you want to prove that your work is worth it, go and have access to these numbers, okay? It's pretty easy to do. You know, you're under confidentiality anyway, so you can ask for the sales figures and show that whatever you do has a direct impact on sales, okay? And it's going to be able to justify it. So, preparation. You can't do a good work without really preparing. So obviously what I'm going to tell you is, for most of it is going to be, yeah, of course we do that. But believe me, I've been speaking at conferences where a lot of people say, wow, this is a good idea. So bear with me for a second. Preparation, tier your media. Okay, which is what I call, define your battlefield. We all have limited resources, time, people, money, right? So you want to say, okay, where do I want to be featured in the press, in the media? And if we had a magic wand, we would like to be everywhere. But reality is that you have to prioritize. So you prioritize your audiences by saying, okay, these are the publications we want to be in. Who gives you feedback? Well, the agency, your PR agency, knows they're experts. So, they know the editorial environment of a country. Your country president, your general manager, he has expectations of where he wants his organization to be featured, right? So you have to ask him. You can ask your salespeople. Your salespeople, they interact with customers all the time. So they should be asking, hey, Mr. Customer, where would you expect to read? What do you read every day? Which blog are you registered to? So that we know where they get their information. It's always a good source, and again, no rocket science, just pure logic, right? Who provides that? The PR agency, and then you get validation from your sales team. I put it in 3 categories. Tier 1, this is where you have to be or you die, right? Which means if there's an article in that publication and it says, the 3 companies that do something in Serbia and my name is not in there, I can just get out of business. Okay, that's tier 1. It's not where you would like to be, like The Economist or the Financial Times. No, that's where you have to be or you die. Okay, Very important to understand the difference. Tier 2 is where you should be in order to do a good job at the same time, right? And Tier 3 is really a nice to have, which means that if you're doing a press conference, you have 2 available seats, do you invite TV Magazine or Men's Health? You know, you have to understand which, in my case, obviously neither one of them, but in the energy business. But this is the type of media team that you want to do. Okay, probably very hard for you to read. The handouts, I believe, will be made available. But again, no rocket science. This is a simple Excel sheet. You put the name of the publication, the circulation, who's reading it, the customer type, okay? The frequency, if it's a monthly, weekly, etc. And based on the different businesses that this publication might serve, if it's priority 1, 2, or 3. The reason for doing this is that you're actually setting the expectations, not only in-house, and saying, Mr. Country President, Mr. General Manager, these are the publications we're going to go after. If you do not agree, or you have a different view, tell me today, not when the results will come in and saying, why aren't we in that publications? And at the same time, it's expectations, setting expectations for the PR agency, and saying, there's no question to ask. This is a product for the industry, and so these 5 Tier 1 publication for industry, I don't care what you want to do, we have to be in them. That's it. No need to discuss, etc. So that's pretty straightforward. Obviously, the second thing you want to do after defining your battlefield is arming your troops, the people that are going to do the interviews. We were having a review of the agency yesterday, and they were showing me all the great things they did with our new country president, which came in, etc. He got media trained. Without the media training, he probably would have done a poor job. And it was his first chance to get well known, so really do not overlook this. You have to media train your people, okay? And on the agency side, provide that service, and I would recommend provide it for free if they are a limited budget, because your work is going to be so much better. Yeah, I'm really working on the client side now, huh? So, chapter 2, measurement. After defining what we want to do, this is how we measure, okay? The reason to measure is that if you do not know where you are at a certain point of time, and you do not set yourself objectives, which means you don't know where you want to go, then you might end up somewhere else, okay? Actually, I really like that quote. I was trying to understand who actually said it first, and I can't find this, so I'm going to give it to myself. Says Thierry. So how would you track, because we have both sides, a quick question, how do you track your PR performance? Does anybody want to just like quickly shout out a way? Pretty shy? Okay. Anyways, a lot of my PR agencies in the 45 that I've been working with and more over time because they've been renewed, etc., they were using AVE, advertising value equivalency. For me, it's a myth, okay? I do not want to use AVE, and you on the agency side, you should also say, you know what, we're not going to use AV, and this is why. AV is a measurement technique, unfortunately, which works pretty well because it talks about money. It talks about how much money you would have spent if this article of one page had been an ad. But the problem is, well, it resonates nice with the country manager, obviously, because it talks about money not spent, but it's not telling you whether you're in the right publication or not. Right? It's not telling you how you compare to your competitors. So you can say that your agency is going to tell you, last year we generated 100,000 euros of equivalent advertising. This year we're generating 200,000 euros of equivalent advertising. You should double my salary. Yep, but what you forgot to say is that our nearest competitor is generating 1.5 billion euros of equivalent advertising. So we're still not doing a good job. Compare yourself to your competition is of utmost importance. And advertising, it says advertising value equivalency. Advertising is not a value, it's a cost. Value is what people did with the advertising. Did they go to the shop? Did they buy, etc.? So the spend on advertising is not a value, it's a cost. So I say no. So what I'm going to do is just share these 4 tools that we use to track, measure, and share at Schneider Electric. The first thing, again, no rocket science, the monthly activity report. Remember the complexity of the network I have, 45 different agencies. If I want to be able to understand how they work and what is being done, so I gave them, okay, whatever you do for tracking, what I want is regularly to have these info. Highlights, lowlights of the month, number of press releases that went out, number of interviews, who did them, product reviews, tests, events, etc., upcoming activities, and never forget the budget. How much am I paying you guys? How much am I paying for the clippings? How much am I paying for this event, press conference, etc.? This is what we do, so it's the output, and it's done by the PR agency and the country president, okay? Then, clipping booklets. Okay, I'm not going to spend an hour on this. Just make sure that you track what came out of your activity and put it in a form that you can really go back to in the future, okay? So obviously this is the output, what we get, and this is done again by the PR manager and the PR agency. The third tool that we use to share is when you have a really good article, actually a noticeable article, you want to share it immediately with the people around you. Because if it's a good article, your salespeople are going to be able to go to their sales calls and say, okay, Mr. Customer, you don't need to believe me. Look, there's an article that says the same thing. And it's a third-party independent view. Also, you want to share, you see it's written the good and the bad. The bad could be an article where you're being not well treated. You want to tell your sales team as well. Because they are going to go to a sales call and they're going to say, yeah, remember that, well, Mr. Customer, are you ready to sign? And the customer will say, well, I read this bad article about you. And you say, what article? What it was saying? What's the problem? So even the ones that are not too good, share them inside so that the customer, the salesperson can actually say, yes, I know, I understand what you're saying. However, their point of view is different, and this is why. They're not sidetracked, and they can do a better job at selling. So this is sharing noticeable results and immediately. Field marketing does that. Fourth tool is the quarterly KPI. KPI standing for Key Performance Indicator Report. What we're looking at is how many articles, so number of articles, the impressions, the size in pages. Is it like one paragraph or is it like 8 pages long? It's not the same impact. And the final thing that we put together is mixing all this together. It creates an index, and that's how we track and measure at Schneider Electric. This is how we compare to competition, and again, you can see share of voice is the name, and what we're showing here is actually Italy. Yeah, we can see it's like Italy because it's dead in August. Actually, it could be in France as well. Nobody works in August in France. So that's how we compare to competition, and it's done globally by my team. And I deliver this to the countries and the agencies so they can sit down and talk together on the impact and the effectiveness of the PR campaign. KPI, Key Performance Indicator, what are the thresholds? The thresholds I've set myself is to have at least 30% share of voice and twice the size of the nearest competitor. And obviously, you saw the impact of winning a lab review. Try to win as many lab reviews as possible because it's very impactful on your sales, and at the same time, it stays for a long time. People will refer to that performance in the future. The quarterly KPI reports has many different views, around 25 graphics, but today for you I'm going to share my 4 favorites, okay? The first one is an executive summary. You give that to the board because they just want like a car, they want the dashboard. They want the speed, they want that's it, nothing else. I want way more than that. So this is what I'm looking at. Here, this graph is what are the most visible products in my industry in the past quarter, okay? You can see that the green bars are my products, Schneider Electric, and the black bars are competitive products. So I can sit down with my business units and say, okay, our products are in the top 10 most visible products, we capture 8 of them, okay? There's only 2 competitive products there. So I can sit down. A business unit can come to me and say, you're never talking about my business unit. I can say, okay, sorry, but this one, that's your product, you're visible. You can't say you're people always try to go about perception. My sentiment is that I'm not covered enough. With that, you can sit down and say, I'm sorry, you're covered here, you're covered there, etc. Here we're taking a look at, once we know which products are being covered, which customers are being touched. Okay, so this is the customer type. Is it like vertical? Is it electricians? Because remember how my share of voice was pretty high? We saw a lot of green bars. Here I can say, okay, well, we're very, very green in MIS, in Wall Street, in end user. Should I, or even like here, this one, consumer. Should I be spending more time on my PR plan for these segments? Or should I actually go and really focus on electricians here because I'm really at the same visibility level as my nearest friend, ABB, the red people? Okay? If you have access to visibility like that when you sit with your customers, when you customers sit with your agencies, you can know where you want to start working next. You can say, okay, well, no spending time on MIS there and there. They're going to talk about us anyways. Plus, we're dominant. They're not talking about anybody else. Let's focus on this segment and this segment where we have share defect compared to the rest, okay? Okay, and that's my probably favorite graph of all is when a publication covers my industry, who do they cover most, okay? So as you can see here, the green bars are still Schneider Electric, the red bars are our friends of ABB, competitors. So imagine this. Serbia releases an anti-ABB product, okay? There's a product we did not have, we create the product, and we say, okay, it's really to focus against ABB that has this solution that we didn't have. I've got my CEO come to Serbia and say, okay, Thierry, I don't have time for a press conference, I only have time for a breakfast briefing, and a breakfast briefing, you know, as everybody, is like max 3-4 journalists with the guy to talk over for like 30 minutes while they're having breakfast. You can't invite everybody. So who do you invite? I pull this graph out and I say, okay, so who are the publications that talked about ABB in the past year? We can see this one, a lot of red here. There's a red here, red here, red here, and red here. I'm just going to call these 4 publications there. Only those ones. I'm going to look at what have been written. I'm going to read the clipping booklets and I'm going to tell my CEO, okay, Jean-Pascal, we are having these 4 journalists because they are the only ones who have really spoken about the ABB in the past year. Here are the 5, 8, 10, 15 articles they've written, name it, I don't know. This is what they said about ABB, and the guy looks at me and says, wow, you know exactly what you're doing, right? This is a sniper approach of addressing where you see share defect instead of spraying and praying to be picked up, okay? So sniper approach there. That's the end of what I wanted to show to you about the measurement that we do at Schneider Electric. Again, you saw no rocket science, just a bit of logic. Finally, I wanted to say, share with you an exercise that we do is the Best PR Agency Award that we've been doing for the 8th year now. Unfortunately, because of lack of time, we're not doing it in 2016 because these guys here would have taken part. But I'm going to share what we do. So the Best PR Award is awards that we've done for, again, the 8th edition, okay? What it is really is we grade the agencies on 2 criteria, or 2 sections of criteria, and the agency grades itself on 2 other, okay? So when the agency grades itself, it grades itself, oops, sorry, I went too fast there. Agency with the market manager in the country, they take a look at agency value, and they put a grade for strategic input, for creativity, proficiency about our business, etc., etc. And the second category, which is ease of doing business, responsiveness. You know, are you taking 2 days to get back to me or not? Business knowledge, access to the trade press, autonomy, etc. What I asked them to do is to sit down with their market manager and the agency together and to say, okay, on that category, I'm giving you a 4 or a 3. And then obviously, 1 is not good, 5 is role model, in the middle you can discuss. They grade themselves, anything that is a 4 or a 5, which is a good grade, I want illustrations so that they can take part. The 2 other categories, we grade them, reporting, quality, and if KPIs, are the results good or not, okay? And that gives a mention where we put all the numbers together, and it gives us a rating. After that rating, I use third-party independent organization, maybe like KAKTUS would be one of them next time, so that they can read the reports and let us know what they think. We categorize them all with a grade, and then you have a first, second, and third position, okay? Again, they get a little plaque. Believe me, and agencies will be supporting me there. You really like to receive awards that you can put in your entry, in your entrance, or in the coffee table, or on your wall. So they get a plaque. They also get a bit of money so that they can spend with, actually it's the market manager takes them out for like an event or like a show or a nice restaurant as a reward. But really behind the scene, what is this all about? It's not just to reward people because they're doing a good job. It's also because it forces a yearly review of the evaluation of the agency. Okay, discuss areas of improvement, okay? And share best practices among Schneider Electric because all the people that give us, their 4s and 5s, I share with everybody. So you can pick ideas. What did you do? We were talking about the Tesla Museum yesterday. You know, that is something if we had shared, and that we can still share, so that other Tesla museums can also do the same thing in other countries, okay? So that can be very interesting, the sharing piece. But really, the impact on the agency is tremendous. I'm going to be reading this to you because it's absolutely huge, if you ask me. This is Italy, who's giving me a feedback after receiving an award a couple of years back. This is not the first time we received this award, and we are happier than ever, as it shows. We're continuously improving the way we work, showing results. We appreciate working with Schneider Electric, with its complex environment and the different lines of businesses, which poses us new challenges every day to find creative ways to succeed.